Thomas Aquinas, in a strange and rather symbolic manner, sprang out of the very centre of the civilized world of his time, the central knot or coil of the powers then controlling Christendom. He was closely connected with all of them, even with some of them that might well be described as destroying Christendom. The whole religious quarrel, the whole international quarrel, was for him a family quarrel. He was born in the purple, almost literally on the hem of the imperial purple, for his own cousin was the Holy Roman Emperor. He could have quartered half the kingdoms of Europe on his shield, if he had not thrown away the shield. He was Italian and French and German and in every way European. On one side, he inherited from the energy that made the episode of the Normans, whose strange organizing raids rang and rattled like flights of arrows in the corners of Europe and the ends of the earth, one flight of them following Duke William far northward through the blinding snows to Chester, another treading in Greek and Punic footsteps through the island of Sicily to the gates of Syracuse. Another bond of blood bound him to the great emperors of the Rhine and Danube, who claimed to wear the crown of Charlemagne. Red Barbarossa, who sleeps under the rushing river, was his great-uncle, and Frederick II, the wonder of the world, his second cousin, and yet he held by 100 more intimate ties to the lively inner life, the local vivacity, the little walled nations and the 1,000 shrines of Italy. While inheriting this physical kinship with the emperor, he maintained far more firmly his spiritual kinship with the Pope. He understood the meaning of Rome, and in what sense it was still ruling the world, and was not likely to think that the German emperors of his time, any more than the Greek emperors of a previous time, would be able to be really Roman in defiance of Rome. To this cosmopolitan comprehensiveness in his inherited position, he afterwards added many things of his own that made for mutual understanding among the peoples, and gave him something of the character of an ambassador and interpreter. He travelled a great deal. He was not only well known in Paris and the German universities, but he almost certainly visited England. Probably he went to Oxford and London, and it has been said that we may be treading in the footsteps of him and his Dominican companions whenever we go down by the river to the railway station that still bears the name of Blackfriars. But the truth applies to the travels of his mind as well as his body. He studied the literature even of the opponents of Christianity much more carefully and impartially than was then the fashion. He really tried to understand the Arabian Aristotelianism of the Muslims, and wrote a highly humane and reasonable treatise on the problem of the treatment of the Jews. He always attempted to look at everything from the inside, but he was certainly lucky in having been born in the inside of the state system and the high politics of his day. What he thought of them may perhaps be inferred from the next passage in his history. St. Thomas might thus stand very well for the international man, to borrow the title of a modern book. But it is only fair to remember that he lived in the international age, in a world that was international in a sense not to be suggested in any modern book or by any modern man. If I remember right, the modern candidate for the post of international man was Cobden, who was an almost abnormally national man, a narrowly national man, a very fine type, but one which can hardly be imagined except as moving between Midhurst and Manchester. He had an international policy, and he indulged in international travel, but if he always remained a national person, it was because he remained a normal person, that is, normal to the 19th century. But it was not so in the 13th century. There, a man of international influence, like Cobden, could be also almost a man of international nationality. The names of nations and cities and places of origin did not connote that deep division that is the mark of the modern world. Aquinas as a student was nicknamed the Ox of Sicily, though his birthplace was near Naples. But this did not prevent the city